We all need a place to live, right? Seems basic, but the data is clear. Housing. It's a global pressure point. Big time.
It really is. And for this deep dive, we're digging into some numbers that frankly surprised even me.
Yeah, you shared some figures on global housing concerns. Ready to unpack what's behind them?
Absolutely. Let's jump in.
Because when you see places like, say, the Netherlands, Canada, Australia, those aren't exactly the first countries that come to mind when you think housing crisis, you know?
Right. You'd think developed nations, strong economies, but the numbers don't lie.
So, spill it. What's the deal with those high rankings? Like over 50% in some cases, right?
56% in the Netherlands, 58% in Canada, even 52% in Australia, ranking housing as a top concern. And it's multifaceted, of course. The Netherlands, for instance, they've got that combo of high population density and land ownership laws. It gets complicated, drives prices up.
So it's not just one thing, it's a whole system.
Exactly. And then Canada, you look at cities like Vancouver, Toronto. Foreign investment plays a huge role. Speculation.
It becomes a bit of a feeding frenzy.
It does. Which makes the U.S.'s lower ranking almost more interesting, don't you think?
For sure. Like, is that complacency? Or are we measuring things differently? What's the deal there?
It begs the question, doesn't it? How are these concerns captured? Because what's considered a top worry here might look different somewhere else. And China's low ranking, that's a head-scratcher too, right?
Huge population, those mega cities everyone's always talking about. You'd think they'd be higher on the list.
You would. And yet, it speaks to the impact of government policies. They've put massive investment into housing. There's a huge, upwardy cultural emphasis on owning your home.
So that probably skews how people view it, even if affordability is still a challenge, especially in those dense urban areas.
Precisely. It's not the whole story, just a piece. And then you have Fiji. Island nations, they're dealing with a whole other layer of complexity.
Admitted to land, yeah.
Exactly. It's not just, can I afford a house? It's, is there even land available? And then you factor in climate change, rising sea levels. That adds a whole other dimension to the equation, doesn't it?
Imagine that stress, trying to buy your first home, and the ground beneath it might literally be gone in a few decades.
It puts things in perspective, doesn't it? And it shows how interwoven these factors are. We've got economic pressures, sure, but also social and cultural ones.
Because it's not just about the money, right? It's about how we view home ownership, how that's changing, especially for younger generations.
Right. Renting for life, that wasn't even a concept our parents or grandparents likely considered. Now it's becoming normalized in some places. Urban versus rural, that plays into it too. Each comes with its own housing headaches.
It's all connected, and we can't forget the government's role in all this. Rent control, affordable housing policies, those have a huge impact, for better or worse.
Oh, absolutely. Rent control, for example, great intention, right?
Yeah.
Make housing affordable. But sometimes it can backfire, discourages new construction, impacts rental availability. It's a balancing act, for sure.
So we're talking economics, social values, politics, even the environment. It's mind-boggling, honestly, how much plays into this one thing, having a roof over our heads.
And it's something we have to address. Because if we don't, we're looking at some serious consequences down the line. Social unrest, widening inequality, a whole generation struggling to get by, let alone get ahead.
It impacts families, mental health. It ripples out. Because a home, it's not just walls and a door. It's stability, it's security, it's the foundation for everything else.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to everyone listening, we're curious. What's the housing situation like where you are? What unique challenges are you seeing?
Let us know. Because this is a global conversation, and everyone's voice matters.